Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Planet Coaster video. So today we're going to be continuing our X-Wing project and just continuing my journey of rebuilding this old ride that I made in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. So yeah, I think we're going to sort of finish out the custom supports. I want to build a transfer track and then building the station, just adding some scenery. So yeah, I guess without further ado, let's just jump into the time lapse. Yeah, so as I mentioned in the intro, I think the first thing I want to do is build out these custom supports and just get it done. So I actually really enjoy building these custom supports. It's very intuitive in my mind and also kind of therapeutic. It's a lot of just thinking about how I structurally would imagine a roller coaster engineer or designer would make these supports here. And also getting inspiration from the manufacturer of this ride and understanding like how they build their supports. And what I sort of found was Mauer doesn't exactly have a specific style. They do have a style, but it seems like all of their rides have different sort of support structures. So I think that kind of gave me free range to build these support structures however I thought would make the most structurally sense. So I thought a lot about like where the forces are actually going to be occurring on this ride, like where the track would actually be, or the train and the track would be pushing, and you know what sort of like reaction force I would need to sort of accommodate for that. And thinking about that sort of stuff is actually a lot of fun, and it's you know, it's pretty interesting and cool. Actually, I in college I studied like civil engineering, so it was like bringing me back to thinking about, okay, like how does, you know, in statics, what force would you need to apply here to make the force negated, and you know, thinking about those sort of things was pretty cool, and developing this structural system. So yeah, I actually enjoyed doing this a lot more than I thought I would. Making the supports can be kind of finicky sometimes in Planet Coaster because you can't really draw lines. You have to sort of use the pivot tool and somehow align it in a way that makes sense, and you know, it takes a couple of times to sort of get right, but once you have an eye for it, it actually is pretty simple and not too bad. So moving back into the build, I was kind of trying to figure out what to do in this like section where it's upside down for a while, and I was thinking about putting supports here, but the problem is I have this like big you know, helix at the bottom, and I wanted the supports to not really interact with that. So I figured maybe I make this span a longer span and then have a thickened spine here, and actually was like, didn't want to do this because making these thickened spines is kind of difficult, especially because I have to make them custom here. So didn't really want to do it, but I did it anyways, and I'm actually really happy how it turned out. And you know, I think the supports are coming together well, and you know, things are going good. So I guess another topic I wanted to sort of discuss was I feel like I'm trying to figure out what to do with my channel. This is my fifth video since coming back to YouTube, and I have to say I'm actually really enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. It's really fun to like be creative and you know, create things that I think are cool and, you know, would put out and that I'm proud of, you know. And I feel like I've learned a lot these past couple of videos, and you know, I'm really excited to get better at video editing and get better at being more organized, and you know, making my videos more concise and more fun to watch and enjoy, and you know, they're a lot more entertaining. So you know, I'm just kind of trying to figure out my groove here. I'm trying to figure out what style of video I like to do. So, and I know I enjoy playing this game, and you know, maybe I was thinking about doing other games too, like Parkitect perhaps, maybe even City Skylines. I'm not really sure. I'm just trying to, you know, get my groove here and see what I enjoy doing, and you know, experimenting with these things is pretty helpful. So. Yeah, I guess with that said, a lot of my YouTube channel is just kind of, right now is just kind of figuring out what I want to do, and you know, I'm really enjoying Lunar World, and I'm actually really enjoying this series. have a lot of other rides that I made back in the day. I have a good album full of them, and you know, I think these are fun side projects to do. So and kind of get away from the whole like my whole lunar world, because that project is just like immense and it has a lot of thought to it and a lot of like master planning to it and things like that, and a lot of like intricate details that I need to put into the park. So when I can have sort of a breath of fresh air and build my skills in other ways, then you know, I actually kind of enjoyed that. So yeah, just kind of getting back to the build here. I actually kind of struggled building these supports, these like smaller supports around this first helix, because I didn't really like the default Planet Coaster supports. It seemed too bulky for this area, and it almost seems like the force is very close to the ground, so it's more like there's no like swaying forces, there's no like forces generated from the ride. I feel like it's more or less like just being supported by the ground. There are some lateral forces and maybe not as many vertical forces, but there's like centrifugal forces here too. So, you know, I was like, I think it's more supported by the soil and the ground. So I, you know, made the supports a little bit thinner than I think what Planet Coaster has. But anyways, yeah, running into this last little bit, I actually really enjoyed making this top hat here. Again, I gained a lot of inspiration from G-Force and what their structure did. And it kind of seems like the structure just more or less does it has like two supports on the end and then has like a beam that connects the two, and you know, it just seems like the ride kind of supports itself here. You know, it doesn't have a lot of supports that go to the left or the right, and it's all just kind of one continuous structure. And you know, I think it works because the weight of the track really just kind of spreads out the forces in the way that make it work. And this last bend, I was so done filling these supports. I was like, I just want to be completed with all this. And you know, this part was pretty easy because all I had to do was copy the ones over from the other helix. It's pretty much the same thing with some minor variations probably, and then just kind of building it out and moving on, you know. So the next thing we're going to get into is actually the transfer track, and the transfer track is used for like maintenance and such. You see this a lot on a lot of rides. It's kind of you know, it's necessary for these rides because you need a place to put the train if you can't have it on the track. And you know, I kind of struggled with trying to figure out where to place them, and of course I have some inspiration. I just kind of grabbed some inspiration from other rides and as a reference, and it almost seems like there's not really a pattern. It just seems like if there's a way you can build your track to where the car can stall on one piece of track, and then you have some sort of conveyor belt or some sort of twist track where the track would kind of like flip over, and then it transfers to this, you know, it transfers to another track. You know, it was actually a lot, wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Once you put some thought into it and, you know, what makes sense for my park, you know, it kind of just fell together. I actually wanted to add a lot of details here because I've never actually built a transfer track. I've built a lot of other things in Planet Coaster, but I've never built one of these, and it kind of made me think about like what does real life have. So I was like, okay, probably has like rails, and it has a little bit of track, and by no means is this 100% fully detailed, but and you know, I just wanted to make it as realistic as possible with the pieces I had, and you know, I wasn't gonna go crazy here. I just wanted to be efficient with my time as well. So yeah, again, doing this mouse ride trick for this catwalk. I don't know if it I think it looks okay. It's a little bit lopsided, but whatever. Yeah, and again, just adding these control boxes here for the brakes. And the brakes, I feel like the section isn't as long as it should be. In fact, I wanted this ride originally to have 2 trains, but I don't think the block sections actually work. So we're just gonna imagine it has 2 trains, but you know, yeah, just building a little control box here for the transfer track. This actually adds a lot of fun details, and then adding the wires here. So, you know, and again, I did that on the launch and I really enjoyed it, so I had to do it here. Yeah, so getting back to like what I was saying about the transfer track, I don't think this ride can maintain actually 2 trains. I guess you could modify it in a way where there's a block section at the launch and then a block section at the station, and then that little section over there is a block station. But Planet Coaster doesn't allow me to give me 2 trains on this ride for some reason. So you know, it's maybe there's some settings I need to change, but you know, I'm not too worried about it. I think it's a one train ride, doesn't really affect it too much because it's such a quick ride. So and you might have like people waiting on the track a long time, so I think it's fine. I guess you could modify, I guess like the park, I guess theoretically the park could modify it and make it 2 trains, but for now let's just make it 1. Yeah, so getting back to the ride here, I'm building the line, and the line I also wanted to make, you know, realistic as possible, and I wanted to interweave it into the ride. So like while you're waiting, you kind of look up at the ride and see what you're about to get yourself into. And the shape is honestly like, it's awful. Like you just have endless switchbacks here, and you know, and every line that I've waited in at a park, it's always like these long switchbacks. So how to do it here. But I feel like mine aren't too bad because there's like, it's broken up into sections. I like moving around in lines and looking at things and getting different perspectives and stuff. So I figured like keeping, you know, amount of people inside is good at, you know, as most as I can is important. So, and then yeah, the path structure that I just built, I was like, you know, I just need to throw some paths down, and I find that in Planet Coaster it's best to just throw things down and then work around them rather than you know, trying to maneuver like the small little details of the path. Like just throw a path down, and then wherever the path is, just keep it and then work around it, you know. Don't try and move it around too much, because I find when you try and build around constraints, you get more creative and you think of like cooler things where you would put and how you would angle stuff. So you know, keeping angles is important, and keeping you know, keeping things different and interesting is always fun. I don't really know what I'm saying here, but let's get back to what I'm building. So yeah, I've moved on to the station here, and I actually struggled a lot here because I didn't know what to theme my ride to just yet. You know, going off of my inspiration, quote unquote, of my older roller coaster, I never really themed it. It just had literally a white box and a red roof on it for my station, and I wanted to do better here. So I struggled a long time with trying to figure out what I wanted to theme it to, and I was like, maybe there doesn't need to be a theme, and I just make it kind of generic. So that's what I did here. I just kind of started throwing things together. I honestly didn't really like how it looked so far, and I actually just cut there and built a bunch of stuff that didn't make the cut. And I think that's just how it is. You do trial and error and you figure it out, and that's just what I did. And I was really reluctant to make this red roof because I feel like the red doesn't go very well with the actual blue of the roller coaster. But I was like, I want to stay true to what I built back in the day and make it better from what I did then. So I decided to just continue with the red roof, and up to this point, like right now, I'm just like, maybe I'll just do some sort of like rustic, like factory industrial, I don't know, like steampunk theme, I guess. And I just started throwing pipes on the wall, and I was like, I don't know, maybe this will look good. And I was like, this doesn't look good. But I was like, let's just keep going with it. I think if I can always delete it, and it's no big deal. But I actually really liked how this turned out at the end. I think it turned out a lot better than I thought it would. And just adding these pipes, these details to the wall of these like pipes and stuff, I think it looks pretty cool. And theme parks, they don't really theme their coasters that much. Like, well, it depends where you go. If you go to like, I think it's called Phantasialand in Germany, they have like that park looks like incredible with theming. It's almost like better than Disneyland. But if you go to like Six Flags, or I don't know, like some sort of Cedar Fair park, usually generic Cedar Fair park, they don't have really a lot of theme on the rides. And I was like, I don't really need to put so much theme into this roller coaster because it's about the ride. It's not about the station and stuff. But again, I wanted to make the scenery look good, so I was like, I'll just do some sort of rustic steampunk theme, and there's no like real theme to it, but that's just the look of the ride. So yeah, just kind of finishing out the station here, adding a ramp up to the entrance. I wanted to cover this, but I figured it might be better just to leave outside. It's okay if they're getting hit by the sun just for a little bit. You're not in this part of the station for very long, so just kind of building a ramp up. And this last part was kind of tricky because for some reason the path links aren't really aligned to the grid very much in this game, so it's like, come on, can't line it to the grid that well, so I just had to improvise and kind of move the walls around and such, but it should turned out well. And finally, just finishing out this pipe work. Actually, this was a lot of fun to do because, again, like the supports, it was very therapeutic. I was just like, okay, you move the pipe here, you add the pipe here, let's turn it here, let's do that. It didn't require a lot of thought. And I was like, I think it's cool if we had these little spouts that come up over here too. They're like little steam spouts, and I had little steam effects later on, and I think they look pretty cool. So from a distance as well, I think the station looks cool and realistic. So yeah, I think overall I'm very happy how it turned out. I didn't expect it to turn out as well as it did. There's a lot of trial and error that went into it, but that's just how it is. So finally, we're moving on to the actual the transfer track where the maintenance shed is actually going to occur. And looking at it again, I almost feel like this is way too small. But this is a very compact ride, so I was okay with it. I think realistically it would probably be a lot bigger, because if you were to come in here and have to go under the track and fix the wheels or something, for example, it might be a little bit difficult to do it inside this shed. So I don't know if it's exactly the most realistic due to its size, but I think it's fine for the ride. In fact, on GeForce, I was looking at some photos. It almost seems like the transfer track is within the coaster station building. So, no hard feelings, I feel like. So yeah, I'm just trying to finish out these details here. I'm building a little doorway for the train to go through, and moving on to some of the station details. And this is where I actually really lit up, was all of these like station details. I had a lot of fun working on these and just adding small little things that really make the ride pop. And like I actually had a lot of fun building this coaster station and the transfer track. And then when I moved back to the station, I was like, okay, I'll add some little hazard rail things here, so that just made things look a little bit cooler than the sort of like yellow strip that Planet Coaster has. And then I was thinking about the ride operator, like I would want their sort of area closed off a little bit more perhaps. And then another thing too is like how we how the ride actually unloads and loads, and I needed a little box for people to put their stuff in while they're riding the ride. So and then you also had to think about like how the entrance goes. I think on the original ride I had like the entrance and the exit on the same side, when I built it in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but again, I don't think that's very realistic, because most rides you enter in from one side and then unload on the other side, so you can have people getting on the ride and getting off the ride simultaneously, and it's a little bit more efficient. So yeah, I think that makes a little bit more sense. And finally, to just finish out this station, I wanted to add these little plaques on the bottom. If you've ever been to like an amusement park, usually if you are in a line, there's an attendant that tells you what row to go to, and I wanted to add these here. It's kind of a shame because in Planet Coaster, for some reason, there's only 4 rows here where people can line up, but the ride actually has 6. So I don't really know what happened when they were programming the game, but I'm not going to complain. It's not a big deal. So yeah, just building kind of an exit walkway here. I didn't really know what to do here. The curve was kind of strange, but I just kind of did what I had to do and built this sort of curved like wooden structure, and then just adding some extra pipes to finish out the station and just be done with it. So yeah, I think we're making some good progress here. Adding like this, I think the steampunk thing actually turned out a lot better than I thought, and things are looking up here. So yeah, I wonder if there is anything else on the station. I think that's it. Oh yeah, I did add this little like boiler thing that you saw earlier. I'm gonna make that into like a interactive sort of triggerable event, which is actually a once the ride starts, it's going to be like the steam goes off or whatever. So I think that'll show up in the final ride, but you know. All right, so finally, let's get on to the actual lines here. So the line has a, usually lines have some sort of like shade structure, because a lot of guests, you don't want to be out in the sun. So that's what I'm just building here, these little overhangs. So like while you're waiting in line, you're not being like literally like fried by the sun. I know in the parks in like, you know, California or you know, other arid climates, it can be kind of, and where there's a lot of sun and stuff, it can be kind of grueling to stand out in the sun all day, and no one wants to do that and get heat stroke. So that's why I'm adding these little awnings. And if it's raining too, you know, you want some sort of protection for your guests. And here I'm actually adding something that I haven't seen a lot of people add before, and that's like an emergency access, or like access for like trucks if they need to get into the transfer track, or cars or things like that. And then also I wanted to, I haven't seen this really on anyone's builds, but I'm building a like electrical transformer here, and this is like how the ride is being powered. You know, there's like some probably underground like electrical lines that feed to the you know, the launch power station again, but you know, I think this little electrical thing here really adds again to the realism. I think it really ties it together, because you would you know, off in the distance you'd probably see something like that, and with how compact this ride is, I think it makes sense to put it where it is. So yeah, and then just adding some fencing here. I'm gonna add some lights off to the edge, but yeah, so I'm nearing the end of the time lapse. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate this series. I think I'm gonna make one more episode and then do a final video. So yeah, stay tuned. Subscribe for more, and yeah, enjoy the B-roll.